5 minutes on how Free Methodism fits within the history of the church. So if you picture a tree, our roots, our Christian history roots, are in Judaism. Jesus was a Jew. He fulfilled the prophecy of the Jewish Messiah. Our Old Testament scriptures are the Hebrew scriptures, and so our roots are in Judaism. The first trunk of the tree is the early church. It's what we read about in the book of Acts. It's about the church spreading. It's about the apostles being the leaders in the church. And at that point, for the most part, the church was centered in Jerusalem. As the gospel spreads and goes wider and in more places, then other hubs, important hubs, start popping up. One's mentioned in the book of Acts. It would be Antioch, and then another to the church in Rome. The Roman church was another hub, and these hubs become places of learning and leadership development and important to the rise of Christianity. The challenge is, as Rome begins to fall, and the official date of the fall of Rome is 476, the safety of traveling becomes very difficult. And this was not in the day and age when you could pick up the phone and call someone. And so these hubs of Christianity began to become isolated and separated, and begin to have problems not only communicating with one another, but agreeing with one another. The first major split in the church officially happens with the Great Schism in 1054. It was actually happening for hundreds of years before then because of the breakdown in communication. But in 1054, the Eastern Church and the Western Church split. The Western Church is centered in Rome, and so this is where the Roman Catholic Church is focused. And the Eastern Church was all these different Eastern hubs, including Antioch and Jerusalem and Constantinople. And these multiple hubs became the Eastern Orthodox Church. So right now there's 9 hubs of the Eastern Orthodox Church, but the split between East and West is the first major split in Christianity. Fast forward from 1054 up to 1517, when, and I'm now focusing on the Roman Catholic Church, when Luther, who is a Catholic monk, puts his 95 Theses on the door of the cathedral in Wittenberg. And Luther is protesting a whole bunch of things he sees wrong with the church. And this begins the Protestant or the Protest Reformation. And this is how our Protestant non-Roman Catholic churches begin to be formed. Luther starts what would become known as Lutheranism. A man by the name of Zwingli begins a movement that ultimately results in different forms of Presbyterianism. But all of a sudden, the Catholic Church is no longer the hold in the West, and there's many splinters that are becoming movements, which then become denominations in the West. For us, however, we don't come after that. We don't come out of that original split. About 20 years after the Protestant Reformation began, the split in England came because Henry VIII wanted to divorce his first wife. You may know Henry ended up with 6 wives, and Henry wanted to divorce his first wife, and his first wife was deeply Catholic, was part of the Spanish royalty, and so Henry asked the Pope for permission to divorce, and the Pope said no. And so Henry broke the Church of England away from the Roman Catholic Church and made himself the head. Not exactly a wonderful spiritual thing, but that's how the Church of England, now known globally as the Anglican Church, began. Fast forward again to the early 1700s, and an Anglican priest by the name of John Wesley was very concerned about God's people being holy, and he preached a holiness message. But then he began to understand in a radical way the grace of God as well. And when he understood the grace of God and the holiness together, he begins to preach in a way that sparks revival. And so in 1739, the Wesleyan revival begins, and these people were known as Methodists because they had a method for follow-up. They would get people in small groups, they would disciple them, and so these Methodists began to multiply. Fast forward again to the mid-1800s. The Methodist Episcopal Church is in the U.S. It split from the Church of England during the Revolutionary War. 1860, the Free Methodist Church is born. we'll talk more about what the Free Methodist Church is, but that's our roots, going all the way back to the early church.